crafts, and I suck at it. I mean, I'm just bad. I'm horrible at all craft-related, gift-giving, love language type. I literally had to Google it, like how to love someone that wants gifts. Right? I didn't know how to do it. So imagine though, because I'm a hugger, like I'll hug every one of you today if I could and not get sued, right? But I'm a hugger. I love hugging people. That's how I show love. So I'm always wanting to hug my kids. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, my daughter does not feel loved when I do that. She's more like, I don't know, just buy me something. And that's fine. That's cool, right? That's okay for her. But imagine I never wrote her a note. Imagine I never bought her a gift. Imagine I never made her a craft. Imagine I never participated in that love language that she has. And instead, I'm always loving her by hugging her. Okay, I think there's a kind of an intuitive awareness to all of us, okay, that my daughter will know I love her. And this is, I mean, how many times have you heard, I don't know if you hear this, I hear it all the time. I knew my dad loved me. Like, I knew it. I never felt it, I never experienced it. And yeah, I'm crying right now because I feel lonely and I'm abandoned and I don't feel like my husband or my dad ever loved me. But I know he loves me. I know my husband loves me. I know my wife loves me. I just don't feel it. I don't experience that love. Okay, so when we talk about availability, what we're talking about is that first person awareness, and that requires us to love our spouses how they need to love, not how we want to love. And the basic reality, and I'm going to get this into radical commitment, but I'll just say right now because it's on the tip of my brain, it means getting over yourself. Like, well, I don't like gift giving. I don't care. Right? You chose to be married. Stop acting like you're single. Right? That's kind of how, now you're getting a flavor of my therapy. That was not in the notes. Right? But availability is so much more. They need to know that they can also get your attention, both emotionally and intellectually. That their needs will not be quickly dismissed or trivialized. Both men and women experience this differently, and hopefully we can talk about it later, but if my needs or my hurt or my frustrations or my desires are quickly dismissed or like immediately we try to solve it. Well, have you tried this? Well, what about this, right? And what happens is we don't feel like the person is actually hearing us. So then we don't feel like they're available to us. And this idea that they need to be able to hear and see our needs is especially important when we're upset or disappointed. Okay? If you're not available to me because you're mad, I'm going to feel that in my core. I'm going to get anxious about it. I might feel insecure. I might begin to withdraw. I had one guy, I'm pretty good at getting people to open up. This guy finally opens up, shares all this hurt, all this pain, and I looked at him, I said, what's wrong? Because I could see that his face was all white. I said, what's wrong? He goes, I'm terrified. I go, what? Like, you're safe. Right? He goes, no, when we leave here, I know I'm going to get the silent treatment for the next week. Right? Because I can't share my hurt without her punishing me. Right? I can't share how you've hurt me without you saying, I didn't do that. Right? That's all in your head. Right? And we get into this like factual debate on if that's what I said or didn't say, and then we start correcting each other's grammar, and the next thing we know, people are crying, and someone's drinking a bottle of vodka or something like that, right? The problem that this husband was struggling with is the wife wasn't going to be available to him. Okay, second question, or second basic need, dependability. This one's huge. I wish I could spend my entire time talking about all of these, but basically, when we talk about are you dependable, another way of thinking that is, can I trust you? Can I trust you? And trust is not just like this intellectual assent, like, yes, I can trust you. Once again, it's that deep encounter. Do I feel and experience that I can trust you? And there's kind of two components to this. The first one is, can I trust that you see how your actions are going to affect me? Right? And a lot of people don't think about it this way. But as I give examples, right, and a lot of the women are like, yeah. All the guys are like, right. But the other component, and I'll get to this in a second. The other component, though, is can I trust you that you see my needs and my signals? Right? So let me break both those down. So the first one, can I trust that you see how your actions will affect me? Your spouse needs to know that your words will match your deeds. Like, it's basically, do you have integrity? Right? To the core. I mean, I can't tell you how many spouses come to me because their husband or wife has committed some kind of like sexual sin, be it an affair, pornography, or whatever it is, right? They're caught in some kind of sexual issue. And this is what almost every one of them says. It's like they never even considered how this would affect me. Right? Because they're so self-absorbed, they're all about themselves. They didn't even think about how this was going to ruin me, how I was going to feel. Right? They just did it anyways. Right? And then they followed that up with, how can I ever trust that person again? Because that's betrayal at the deepest level. Now you would think, oh yeah, that's sexual. We're all good. None of us has committed that kind of stuff, right? Because we're good people, right? But the problem is it goes so much more beyond just the sexual issues. How do you spend your money? I can't tell you how many couples actually separate their accounts because one of them can't be trusted, right, with money. Or how do you spend your time? Are we sitting in the garage watching football and sports or playing video games? Are we always out shopping, meeting with friends, or whatever it is, right? Okay, how we spend our time also affects us. I recently had a client that basically it's like the guy's in the garage all day long. Never comes inside. What's the wife saying? He doesn't realize how this is affecting me and the kids. He's not there. He's not present. He's not dependable. I can't trust that guy. But it also applies to how much booze you're drinking. I recently had a husband say, all she does is smoke pot. I can't trust this woman. Right? Another one is, are you keeping yourself healthy? People don't even think about this stuff. You know how many, particularly this is, I don't know, this is interesting. I've never had a male kind of respond, but I have like countless women that are crying on my couch because their husbands are not willing to go to the doctor or eat better or stop smoking, right? And they're just weeping and they don't get it. And they say, you know, don't they see I don't want to spend the rest of my life alone? You know, we all know statistics, you know, women outlive men, and they don't want to retire alone. They want to depend upon their husband, or it could be wife, right? That they're going to stick around. They're thinking long term. I want grandkids, and you're sitting around eating donuts. The donuts are delicious, but you know, you're just sitting around eating donuts and smoking cigarettes all day long, right? Nothing against cigars, by the way, right? But the problem is that each of us need to have that kind of that sense of that the dependability, right? If I know that whenever you make a decision, you're also thinking of me, I feel safe and comfortable. Like, I know you're not going to go out and buy a house. I literally had a spouse went out and bought a house without talking about it. Like, that's a problem. Like, don't do that. My entire therapy is just stop. Don't do stuff like that, right? Let's go back to dependability. It's not just do you see how you affect me, but can you see my needs and my signal? This one is huge. And we'll probably have to spend more time on it. But basically the idea here is, are you attuned to your spouse emotionally and existentially? Like, and it goes beyond just like body language stuff. Oh, that's really huge. Like if you don't know how to read body language, YouTube it or something, right? But basically attunement is the ability to understand your spouse at kind of a deep level, and you lovingly, that's the key word, lovingly express this to him or her. Okay? Because once again, they're going to feel safe. If you're showing that you're attuned to them, then they feel safe again. Right? So you don't just understand how your behavior is affecting them, you also are aware and you know your spouse intimately. This means you're actually having conversations at a deeper level. right? We're talking about our sadness. We're talking about our loneliness. We're talking about our emotional needs, our psychological needs. And there's an open, transparent environment in which I'm not going to be offended if you feel lonely. Like, you can come up to me and say, hey, I'm feeling lonely. And I'm like, oh, no way. I don't want you to feel that. Like, I'm entering in. I'm joining with it. I'm not like, why? I took you out last night. I bought you flowers. Right? That's not attuned. That's dismissive. Dismissive bad. Attunement good. Right? So, I can spend a lot of time on attunement, but the basic idea here is that the more we, if you're just dismissing your spouse's feelings, even the negative ones, right, they're not going to feel that safety. They're going to feel rejected. Right? Now, as I say over and over to my clients, I've said it online, I've wrote about it, right? Emotions are there to inform us, not to control us. This is the basis, I found it. This is the basis of virtue ethics, right? Emotions are there to inform us, not to control us. But if you don't listen to emotions, okay, they're going to get loud. They're going to get mad, they're going to get angry, they're going to get nagging, they're going to start jumping up and down. They might withdraw. They're going to do something, right? And so part of the point of attunement is I'm allowing my spouse to inform me about their emotions, and I'm not just shutting them down. Does that make sense? Okay. This last one, radical commitment. Why didn't I just say commitment? Why add radical? It just sounds cool. No, I'm just joking. This might be a little controversial, but keep in mind, this is kind of like my day-to-day interaction with people. This is not really an abstract concept. The reality is that the commitment as a culture isn't really enough anymore. Like, when we talk about commitment, it's just not enough anymore. If we like it or not, the concept of marriage has changed and evolved, some for good, some for bad, right? But your spouse just doesn't want you to stay in the marriage anymore. They don't. Staying in the marriage when you're really unhappy is kind of this old view of commitment. Now, I'm not saying I think they should stay in your marriage. Right? That's the virtuous thing. Right? We're not talking about what they should do. We're talking about what your need is. Right? And your basic need isn't, I need my husband to stay here. That's not. You want something more. Right? If we like it or not. Several generations have grown up in divorce culture, in this kind of divorce culture, and they know this view of commitment is dead. They're anxious about commitment. This is why so many people are just cohabiting instead. Right? They don't want to be abandoned. Well, what if they're not happy anymore? Right? Notice that inherent, it's like, if you're unhappy, you're going to leave me. That's why we have to add radical to it. Right? Because the reality is what your spouse is wanting, okay, is not that you stay in the marriage. They want you to be in the marriage. 100%. Okay? They need to know that you are willing to do whatever it takes for this marriage to survive. They want to thrive. They want to experience the fullness of life. We're an experiential culture now. Right? We're not just trying to pay the bills. That's not what our view of marriage is anymore. Although that's a component, we want more than that. We want the encounter. We want the emotional feeling of that security. Okay? And so what radical commitment is that they want you to be all in. They don't want you just to give up when times are tough. But see, the thing is their greatest fear, over and over I hear this, the greatest fear is that they're going to be abandoned, right, either emotionally or existential, when the things get bad. And they don't want to be sleeping next to a person that isn't with them. Right? That's kind of that old view of commitment, right? We go in there and that's kind of this concept. It's like people call it dead marriages, right? It's like, I don't want my marriage like my parents, like they're dead married. They just go to bed, they sleep in separate rooms, they basically are roommates. Right? They don't want that. They want their spouse to be there. So radical commitment means refusing to make the marriage about yourself. Ooh, that's a hard one for our culture. That means you like have to stop thinking about yourself all the time, right? It means that you're co-creating kind of a new reality with your spouse. New concepts of what it means to live together. What new interests. It's not just your interest and my interest. It's like, no, we're developing interests. That's what they want. Radical commitment means that the status of our relationships isn't shifting and changing by our emotional state. Well, I'm mad with you, we're divorcing. I'm in a thread. Nope, I'm calling it. Oh wait, I didn't mean that because now I've calmed down. Right? Veiled threats. It's one of the, man, you wanna rock a marriage, right? Start using veiled threats. I can't take this anymore. I'm done. I'm divorcing. I'm gonna go talk to a lawyer. If you don't do this, I'm gonna divorce you. We start using the marriage as a weapon. Radical commitment says, absolutely not. It's basically saying, I'm hurt right now and I'm going to figure out a constructive way to convey that to you in a way that you can hear it. Notice we're going back to availability. I'm going to love my wife how she needs to be loved. But that also means I need to communicate to my wife how she needs me to communicate, not how I want to communicate. I like charts and graphs, right? My wife isn't going to come to me and be like, well, so, lay it all out. I do want her to do that, right? But if I do that to her, she's like, what? I hate you. No, she doesn't say that, right? But that's just rude for me to present it that way, right? So basically your spouse is saying or asking to themselves, are we in this together or am I fighting alone? Radical commitment solves that problem, right? Because radical commitment says we are fighting together irregardless of how we're feeling or thinking in a given moment. No matter what the hurt is, we're going to keep going. Now, just a caveat, because I know this is going to be online. Extreme abuse, extreme addictions, there are times where safety trumps radical commitment. Just to kind of lobby that, we don't need to spend a lot of time with that, but just because, so I don't get in trouble later, because then people are going to be like, you want people to stay in abusive relationships, and I'm like, no, I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about, 80% of the marriages, right? If you look at the divorce rate, 20%, 20 to 30% is abuse, really chronic, fighting, bad stuff. The vast majority, 70%, okay, is because I'm not happy. What? We have a divorce culture because you're not happy? We can solve that. Just come hang out with me. We can do that. Right? Abuse, okay. You need to get safe. Right? So safety always trumps. Always. All right. So now that I've said that. All right. So what then is champion? We got the 3 basic needs down. What is champion? Champion means that you are taking up your spouse's cause and needs daily. They're on your mind, right? I can't tell you how many wives and husbands say, I don't feel like he even thinks about me or she even thinks about me, right? A champion is someone who's going to advocate for them, even when they disagree sometimes, right? Now, of course, there's some caveats there. It's like, well, what if it's immoral? What if they want me to do something immoral? Once again, okay, we can deal with that. But even in that moment, I can advocate for their need without what they're wanting to do. Because oftentimes what they're wanting to do is just try to fulfill some need. We could probably figure out what that need is, and then I can advocate for that. I might not advocate for the actual action, though. Those are 2 different distinctions, okay? So, in a way, their needs are your needs. You feel like they're one. Right? That goes back to that dependability, right? You're thinking about how you are going to affect me because my needs are your needs and vice versa. We get this sweet, virtuous circle going, right? Where both of us are doing this together. Right? A champion is radically committed to his or her cause. To be honest with you, I don't care about your political leanings. So, it's like, think of a pro-lifer or a PETA person, right? If you want to. Right? Those people are just dedicated. They're radically committed to the cause, right? Sometimes too much, right? It's like, slow down there, right? But They're just there. They're radically committed. They refuse to give up even when times go bad. Legislation passes either way, I don't care, right? At this point of the lecture, right? But they refuse to take no for an answer. Your spouse wants to feel that from you. Right? It's like, oh yeah, we got in a fight, you know, and then we're out of it. No. We're radically committed. We are here. We're going to do this. I am passionate beyond all belief, even when I'm hurt, even when times are tough. A champion is dependable because he or she sees the needs and refuses to act contrary to the cause. What's the easiest way to get your cause discredited? Being a hypocrite. You be a hypocrite, your entire ministry, political movement, whatever you want, down the toilet. Right? That's just how our culture is. Right? So if you're going to be a great champion, if you're going to be a great advocate of your spouse, you have to be dependable. You have to show up. You have to have integrity. Fair, you know, plain and simple. Emotionally and factually. A champion is available because he or she is willing, if I can use a kind of a religious connotation, they're willing to kind of pick up the cross, right, to ensure that their spouse feels like the most loved person in the world daily. I tell husbands all the time, I want you to ruin your wife's life. And then everyone's like, what? Right? This is what I mean. I want you to make her feel so loved, so cared for, that if you died, she would just have to become a nun, even if she's not Catholic. Like, I am ruined. There's no one else that can do it for me. Right? I'm literally converting and joining this thing. Right? I want that to be, that's how much I want them to love them. And vice versa. Right? It's everything I say is always applied, right, to the other way. Right? But you gotta get these guys off the couch. Right? They need to love. They need to be available. Okay? I need you to be, I want my wife, every time, when I go home at night, I think to myself, have I done what I need to do to make my wife feel like the most loved person in the world? Now, guess what happens if she's saying the same thing? Now my focus is on her needs, hers is focusing on my needs. Once again, we got a sweet virtuous cycle again. Right? She's not just focusing on herself. Right? I'm not just focusing on myself. And now, therefore, we're radically committed. We're refusing to make the marriage about ourselves. It works really well when you do it together. It's harder when only one person is willing to do it, and there's different interventions for that. I'm not addressing that right now. That's a different topic, right? But when we're both doing it together, okay, we feel safe. So if you want a happy marriage, you have to learn to champion your spouse. You just have to. You must be available to them, you must be dependable, and you must be radically committed to each other till death do you part. It's fair and simple. It's about as simple as I can make a thriving marriage. And then all the other stuff about learning how to communicate and all that other stuff that I would address. But I can't do that. Let's open it up.
Thank you.
Yes.